Now let me hear y'all.
Coming up there.
Above my head, I see hope in the air. Above my head, I see hope in the air. Above my head, I see hope in the air. And I really do believe it, that I really do believe a change is coming out there. Above my head, I see change in the air. Above my head, I see change in the air. Over my head, I see change in the air. And I really do believe, I said I really do believe a change is coming out there.
Coming out there.
Above my head, I see change in the air. I need that one louder. Above my head, I see change in the air. Above my head, I see change in the air. And I really do believe it, that I really do believe it. Change is coming out there. And I really do believe it, that I really do believe it. Change is coming out there.
Coming out there.
And I really do believe, I said I really do believe a change is coming out there.
All right. We are rising up. We ain't gonna let nobody turn us around. We are committed, we are clear. As our comrades come, we're gonna sing them in because we are rising up. Rise up, come on and rise up.
Rise up, come on and rise up.
Rise up, come on and rise up.
Rise up, come on and rise up.
We ain't gonna let nobody turn us around.
We ain't gonna let nobody turn us around.
Because the people united, we stand on our ground.
Because the people united, we stand our ground.
So rise up, we're gonna rise up.
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 The people are ready, so follow our lead.
The people are ready to follow our lead.
We'll put an end to the violence, the hatred and
We'll
greed.
put an end to the violence, the hatred and
You know what?
greed.
Let's remind them of that. The people are ready, so follow our lead.
The people are ready to follow our lead.
We'll put an end to the violence, the hatred and greed.
Put an end to the violence, the hatred and greed.
We'll put an end to the violence, the hatred and
We'll
greed.
put an end to the violence, the hatred and greed.
So rise up, we're gonna rise up.
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 Rise up,
Rise up,
rise up,
rise up,
rise up,
rise up,
rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up.
pose a question to those elected leaders and officials that say they represent us in our interests. Which side are you on?
That's right.
Senator Manchin, all those who say that they want to pass legislation that's going to help poor people, working people, those who have been marginalized, which side are you on?
That's right.
Are you for truth and justice, or for lies and deceit and games? We're here for truth.
That's right.
So our question to you today is, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on? Listen, Harriet Tubman was a freedom fighter. She taught me how to fight. We're going to fight all day and night until we get it right. Oh, which side are you on? 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 Ella Baker was a freedom fighter. She taught me how to fight. And we're going to fight all day and night until we get it right. Oh, which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on? God help me. Which side are you on? People, which side are you on? Listen, John Lewis was a freedom fighter. He taught me how to fight. And we're going to fight all day and night until we get it right. Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
We're on the freedom side.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
We're on the freedom side.
Bishop Barber is a freedom fighter. He's teaching me how to fight. We're going to fight all day and night until we get it right. Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
We're on the justice side.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Justice side.
Reverend Liz is a freedom fighter. She's teaching me how to fight. And we're going to fight all day and night until we get it right. Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
We're on the justice side.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Let me hear you say
Justice side.
I say a freedom. I say a freedom. A freedom. Somebody say a freedom. Say a freedom. Say a freedom. Somebody say it. A freedom. Say freedom. Say freedom. Say freedom. Oh, which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on? Somebody say freedom. Somebody say freedom. Somebody scream out freedom. Lift your hands and say freedom.
All right, this morning. Oh, go ahead.
As we come into our songs, we're going to do a little movement of people. So we want a half moon, a half circle, so that we're a little more in and not spread out. Okay, there we go. If you are on the far ends, if you would just kind of crease yourself in, you can come around. The only place is you just don't want to block the cameras, but we can come in, fill in all this space, in all that space. If you're on that end, come on in. You can be in front of the speaker even. But you can fill it in as more people come in, then they can have room to fill in behind you. And you come on close. All right. And we want you to spread out. So if you can come forward, you can spread out a little bit better. All right, Sharon.
This morning, Abby, who is here doing a hunger strike, reminded us. She said, I have a right to live. And Bishop Barber lifted up that we have a song in our movement that says, everybody has a right to live. So I'm going to ask you to lift up that song with me today. And remember, as we do, the far too many people in this country that die every day when our representatives decide that our lives are not worth the money. We say it is our lives that have worth. It is our lives that matter. So with that, sing this with me. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. 'Cause everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. You all know this. I need it nice and loud. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. 'Cause everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to help. Everybody's got a right to help. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. 'Cause everybody's got a right to help.
All right, I need people to put their hands together. Put those signs down, but put your hands together.
To live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. 'Cause everybody's got a right to. Now this one, sing it loud. I want those folks over there in Congress to hear us lift up this song. They need to know that we are fighting for our lives right here, right now. Here we go. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. 'Cause everybody's got a right to. Give a little break. You're gonna follow me. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to dream. Everybody's got a right to learn. Everybody's got a right to breathe. Everybody's got a right to housing. Everybody's got a right to health care. Everybody's got a right to learn. Everybody's got a right to. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. 'Cause everybody's got a right to live. That's everybody. Everybody's got a last one. Here we go. Bring it home. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. 'Cause everybody's got a right to live.
All right. Good morning. First, we're going to have an announcement. You cannot have anything on the steps. So if you have any bags, please remove them immediately. Nothing on the steps. Security concern. Thank you so much. Good morning. Thank you for being here. You are now going to hear from Reverend Dr. Bishop Barber, Reverend Dr. William Barber, many names, but we know this prophetic voice is here to lay out the purpose of why we are here today.
Make it plain. Make it plain.
We want to ask, first of all, everybody, just spread out just a little bit. That's all we can be. We can be safe. Good, good, good. Just a little bit. Doesn't mean you have to move or go anywhere. So we have people coming from a lot of different organizations today. Rabbi, I need some help with this. Move On, SEIU, Black Voters Matter, Sunrise, 350.org. Huh? Unite Here. We have our people from representing our 47 state coordinating committees, specifically from West Virginia, Pennsylvania is coming, New York, North Carolina, Delaware is coming. They shut us down. They had something called Maryland, DC, Virginia. They had a shutdown, and so we had to park away from the place. But people are actually marching over now. We also have the Religious Action, RAC, Common Defense, and the Institute for Policy Studies, Repairs of the Breach, Kairos Center, and most of all, we all gather with the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. They asked me to give the purpose today, and then we're going to hear from the voices we so often don't hear from, and that's part of the problem, and that is the leaders who are impacting people. Because policy is not benign. Policy creates all this pain, and policy can change this pain. The scriptures are clear. Woe unto those who legislate evil and rob the poor of their rights and make women and children their prey. The Constitution is clear. When you swear to uphold it, you are supposed to pass policies that promote the general welfare of all people, not the specific welfare of the corporations. And even in the gospel, it is clear, woe unto those who are hypocritical. They pay attention to all of the little Robert's rules of orders and the rules about filibuster, but they leave undone the weightier matters of the law, which is love and justice and kindness and treating people right. So we gather here on this Moral Witness Wednesday, and Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris and I were talking the other night. The problem in this place is the lobbyists, the greedy, the corporations, and the military-industrial complex have too much power. And not the people, and especially poor and low-wage workers, who actually have the power, but it's too often ignored. 140 million poor and low-wealth people have power. 40% of the electorate is poor and low-wealth people. That's power. But this place has become so used to listening to itself and acting like the people are the ones that are supposed to serve them as opposed to them serving the people. Too many politicians, I believe, in the Congress on both sides of the aisle, particularly, I'll talk about that in just a minute, how I disaggregate that. They have a soul problem. They see the people as pawns and the elite as the true citizens. One person said to me in West Virginia, they see themselves as our bosses rather than the other way around. And so we have a crisis of democracy, a crisis of civilization, a class of ideology, a kind of war of the world view going on. That's why they can so easily pass $21 trillion for war and militarization of our communities and our borders since 9/11, and then act like $3.5 trillion over 10 years is all that much. Some politicians, like moderate Dems, will not say the things that they will block if they get elected. They won't dare say it when they're running. They don't challenge the platform or the presidential nominees when they're running. But as soon as the election is over, they want to claim to be moderate. And all that really means in this place for them is those who will simply mess up everything and keep things from happening. Then there are the extremists. And the extremists, during the elections and afterwards, they say exactly what they're going to do. And then they do it. They tell you, if you elect me, we're going to block health care. They say, if you elect me, we're going to pass tax cuts for the wealthy and not pass living wages for the working. They say it. And when they get here all day and every day, they fight for the greedy, the wealthy, and the corporate interests. To both of them, those groups, it makes you want to ask, if you put your hand on a Bible that actually says how you care about the least of these is how you're going to be judged. Why would you, after putting your hand on the Bible and swearing yourself into office, or a Quran, or the holy scriptures, the Hebrew scriptures, why after that would you be a slave to greed and corporations? You know, slaves might have built the White House, but we got some slaves in the Capitol. But they choose to be slaves to greed and corporations, and they try to figure out every way you can cut, hurt, and harm people rather than have a conscience and invest in the people, protect the people, and serve the people. I got a question. If you swore to uphold the Constitution, to promote the general welfare of all, the reason we're here is to ask, why after swearing to do that, would you be a slave to greed and the corporations, rather than with a conscience serve the needs of the people? If we want to ask our president today, if you have been like us, and over the last year and a half, you have really seen over 700,000 people die, and 20 million people lose their jobs, and 8 million more people fall into poverty through COVID, and if you're still alive through all of that, why, after all of that, would you be a slave to greed and corporations and try to figure out every way you can hurt people, mansion, cinema, than how you can be free to serve the people and invest in their well-being? If you know that one day you're going to have to answer God, why in the world would you get up every morning and be a slave to greed and a slave to corporate interests, and try to figure out every way you can cut something and give a little bit more to those who don't even need it, rather than spend every waking minute you have trying to figure out how to serve the people with a conscience and lift up the least of these? If you know that even $3.5 trillion in a Build Back Better plan is just a step, the Economic Policy Institute says we need $10 trillion. Considering where people started before COVID, 140 million people in poverty, 700 people dying a day, 250,000 of people a year from poverty and low wealth. And you know that 3.5 trillion is only 5% more than we're going to spend anyway. And if you do this, the return will be tenfold. If you know this, why would you be a slave to greed and corporations rather than serve the people and protect the people? And lastly, if there are 140 million poor and low wealth people in this nation, 87 million uninsured or underinsured in this nation, 32 million who make less than $15. Most of them essential workers. The people that went to work first, who stayed at work the longest, who got infected first, who got sick first, who went to the hospital first, and who died first, but who upheld this country through COVID and even now. If you know these are the realities, why would you be a slave to greed and corporations, trying to figure out every day how you can cut and hurt more people rather than have a conscience and serve the people? Something wrong. That's why we got to rise up, y'all, in love and in truth. We got to change this narrative. We got to show another kind of power. Something's wrong, Brother Jonah. Something's wrong in the soul when you see as a bad thing what you call entitlements to help the poor and low wealth, but you see tax cuts for billionaires as all being all right. When you treat people like they're things and corporations like they're people, when you treat billionaires like they're entitled, but you treat the poor and low wealth people like they're expendable, we are in a civilization crisis, a crisis of democracy that is morally indefensible and constitutionally inconsistent and economically insane. Because not to invest in the people is to actually invest in the implosion of our economy. Especially when the evidence is overwhelming that when you invest in the people through something like the Build Back Better plan, you grow jobs, you grow the gross domestic product, and you lift the economy, and you create jobs. Do you know if you cut this thing, it's already too low, but if you cut it to $1.5 trillion, that's 2 million lost jobs. You realize that if you pay $15 an hour, not only would you lift 32 million people out of poverty, and they would be able to feed their families, but you would pump $330 billion into the economy. It is what we are seeing. And this battle to stop the Build Back Better plan as a step, and the battle to undermine voting rights, and undermine the ability of the people to critique and to change those who are elected. What we are seeing is morally indefensible. It is constitutionally insane. It is constitutionally inconsistent. It is economically insane. And it is politically incompetent to think that you can keep stepping on 40% of this nation, and at some point we're not going to rise up and say hell no.
There you go.
Or might I say heaven no. And so we're rising in love, in justice, and in truth. But don't you mistake, regardless of what you end up doing, Manchin and Sinema and others with this Build Back Better plan, you have shown yourself, and it has emboldened and intensified our agitation. You have caused to come alive that which you may have wished they did. And that is all of us coming together. Regardless of race and creed and color and religion and faith or non-faith, we are coming together. We are going to change the narrative of this nation. We're going to make it live out what it said on paper. We're going to be true to the deepest values of our religious faith. And we're going to see everybody around us as being created in the image of God, and they have a right to live, and a right to health care, and a right to living wages, and a right to education. And that's why we're here, because the right time to tell the truth is always right now. My brother, Jonah.
Bishop, oh, you're going to sit down. Bishop Barber, you know what it says in the Talmud? In the Talmud, Bishop, it says, never follow Bishop Barber. Rabbi Prince on the mall spoke before King. I got to speak after Barber. Pray for me, people. I'm Rabbi Jonah Pesner, the director of the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism, the largest and most diverse denomination in Jewish life, and the proud partner of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. Bishop Barber, you told us we are having a crisis in democracy. This crisis in democracy, we saw it coming 5 years ago. They walked in Charlottesville. They carried TT torches. They had assault rifles, and they said, what? Jews will not replace us. And they had their guns and their Confederate flags, and it was the face, the ugly, bigoted face of white supremacy and racism and anti-Jewish hate. And my friends, my family, my Poor People Campaign family, 3 years ago today, a white supremacist bigot marched into the Tree of Life building housing 3 synagogues with an assault rifle and murdered 11 of our Jewish family.
In my town.
And why? Because they were a congregation, Dor Chadash, that had observed Refugee Shabbat, where they were welcoming immigrants, migrants, the refugees, and all those seeking to shelter under God's presence. We in the Jewish tradition, shared with our Muslim family and our Christian family, say that to be a person of faith is to be for the widow, the poor, and the orphan. We are taught in the Bible that we are to speak up, to do justice, and stand with the poor. So on this, the 3rd anniversary of the massacre in Tree of Life, which was a warning about what the ugly, violent face of white supremacy looks like, and played out on January 6th in that building, when they invited whose house? Our house! Attacked who? Attacked us! Our democracy, imperfect as it is, struggling as it might, but a democracy that looks like what you have built, Bishop Barber. Look around and see the good news. We are black and white, Latino, brown. We are native peoples. We are Muslim and Christian and Jew and Baha'i and Hindu and too many faiths that I can list. We are all genders. We are non-binary. We are LGBTQIA. We are the full array of what God meant the world to look like. We say in our tradition, may their memories be for a blessing. So take a moment now and hold in your hearts the 11 who were murdered 3 years ago today at prayer in their synagogue. And if we want to make their memories for a blessing, let's do the people's work. Let's really build back better. Let's not pretend we're building back better. Let's pass the Freedom to Vote Act. Let's restore democracy. Let's reform the filibuster. Let us do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly, hand in hand with our God. Amen. Amen.
Let's pray to somebody. Rabbi Pressner has to leave, and then he asked, could he go today before our impacted leaders? That's why we asked him to come. I'm glad that, someone spray this for me. I'm glad that our rabbi brother brought up the issue of death. And I'm glad the media is here. Dr. King said that when we engage in policies that undermine the poor and people have to work for starvation wages, it is a form of political murder. I want to say today, and media, this is why you need to hear these folks, because all of this stalling, all this lying about we don't have enough, all of this wanting infrastructure that's primarily going to benefit business folk, but then we don't want to protect the infrastructure of our democracy, which is voting rights, and then watching a senator, you know, it's a bad thing that he did. He debated and held out to push the For the People's Act off the table, get the For the Freedom to Vote Act on the table, which we don't have a freedom to vote, we have a right to vote. And then he inserted some stuff in there about voter ID under the promise that he could get these mythical 10 Republicans. You know, the truth is we should have never took the For the People's Act off the table. But his goal was to change the, you gotta watch these guys. He wanted to change it. So now anytime it comes up, we're debating the Freedom Act rather than the For the People's Act and the VRA. That's a trick. That's a political trick. Somebody say trick. Yeah. But people die when people are uninsured. And we're going to start talking in these terms, media. People die when there's a lack of insurance. People die, lives from poverty. People die from ecological devastation. This is a matter of life and death. And it's not just happening to black folk. When we say poor, 66 million of the 140 million people in this country who are poor and low wealth are white. 26 million are black, but that's 40% of black, 60% of black people. 68% of natives, 68% of Latinos. These things are attacks on all of us. So I'm going to step back. I want to bring on Julia Paramo is one of the powerhouse heroes who's put their life on the line in this hunger strike. And then Reverend Casimir Brown is going to take over, and we're going to practice what we preach. And the persons that are going to speak first are going to be people that are impacted by the policy. We've heard enough of Manchin's lies and Sinema's excuses. And we're begging the president, begging that this go forget the people like this in the White House and the Oval Office, talk to them, and then bring them to the mic. That could change the whole debate, Mr. President. That could change the whole debate, Mr. Schumer. Don't let this be about the $3 trillion. Let it be about the 9 million and 10 million. I think in the millions of people that will be hurt if we don't at least take this step. At least take this what? Step. It's not the whole journey, but at least this what? Step. So we're going to hear from persons that are directly impacted, speaking from their heart. And then following them, the clergy, leading off with Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris, will come. The clergy will speak from that faith perspective. And we thank God for all of them. So at this time, Reverend Casman, I'll put it in your hands.
All right, bear with me. I'm going a little slow this morning.
All right.
Okay. Buenos dias. Good morning. My name is Julia Paramo. I'm 24, Tejana from Dallas, Texas. And me and my friends have been hunger striking for 8 days now. This morning, the doctors were concerned with how much weight I've lost since we began this. And I want to tell President Joe Biden that I'm tired of seeing communities struggle every day, like my one back in Dallas. President Biden, I am tired of communities having to go through natural disasters like the one I went through back in February. I still remember the winter freeze like it was yesterday. Joe Biden, I don't want to wake up in a freezing cold room, worried about my parents, about my dog, about my friends only a few miles away, scrambling to use the devices I had that still had power to contact and to find resources and aid to help my community because the government wasn't there, because the infrastructure that should have been in place wasn't there. I don't want another child or family to die of carbon monoxide poisoning because the infrastructure that could have prevented that from happening wasn't in place. For over the past year, I have been organizing in my community. I have been dedicating myself to the work of organizing and mobilizing so that my community could survive, like so many other people across the United States. I haven't been employed since January of 2020. Passing this bill could guarantee millions of union green jobs for people across America.
That's right.
It could mean that they would have a livable income so they could put a roof over their heads. President Biden, I don't want my friend Shantae Davis to go back to her home of Louisiana only to see big plants fueling emissions and making the air toxic to breathe. We don't need any more fossil fuel projects. I don't want my friend Emma, who's hunger striking with me, to go back to Santa Rosa, California, to find her home burned down. I don't want my friend Abby here to go back to her home in West Philly to find that her home has been washed away by the floods. We need Joe Biden and his administration to forget about the corporations and save our lives. Save all of our lives. And I want to briefly speak in Spanish as well.
Thank you.
No tengo mucho preparado para decir en español, pero quiero decir que estoy agradecida por poder traer atención a la crisis de clima que estamos en, a la crisis de clima que afecta a todos nosotros y ya no podemos tomar las excusas o hacer compromisos. Es tiempo de hacer acción. Olvida las corporaciones y salva nuestras vidas.
Amen. Somebody say forward together. Not one step back.
Not one step back.
Say everybody.
Everybody
Has a right to live.
has a right to live.
These are the voices we need to hear. These are the voices we need to hear. Now I'm going to be calling up, thank you so much, thank you. Now we're calling up, oh, go
If
ahead.
there is another minister, I can't make you do it, and you have a stole that you wouldn't mind because they're going back, and you would want to bless them with it, as they're leaving, if you're a minister here, pass it on to them. I guarantee you God will bless you, but it's your own decision.
Thank you. The next voices we'll hear is from Joan Steve from Arizona and from Kaylin Barker from West Virginia. Well, Joan, Kaylin?
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. I'm very touched by what Julie has said. My cousin, who is 65 years old, laid in a hospital bed in Texas because of climate change, that horrible storm, and she watched Ted Cruz get on an airplane to go to Cancun. She had become past pneumonia. She laid in her home till it was 28 degrees, had shards of frozen water in her lungs. Due to climate change, she had never seen that in Waco, Texas. So I was heartbroken by it. I have watched health care and home care. I have done it for 30 years. I've watched hospice go downhill. We have people dying in their home because they don't have money to pay for hospice. We have people dying of cancer. They don't have money to go to the Cancer Institute of America. So what we need to do is to level the playing field. When you watch a football game, everybody has the proper equipment. Everybody follows rules. But in America, we don't follow rules.
That's right.
We don't provide equipment. I pay for my own PPE. I must protect myself. I test every week for COVID because I am on the front line dealing with it every day. When you talk about the Build Back Better plan, I think we see a big, giant bubble that we can't possibly see get burst. But I believe if we don't fight, it will be burst and there'll be nothing. They want to give us nothing. They don't want to give you $15 an hour. They don't want to give you dignity. They don't want to give you health care. They don't want you to die with dignity. They don't want you to live with dignity. I have watched Reverend Barber the last 2 times I've been in D.C. in pain, struggle to come to this podium and speak to people who have the power to change. If they don't listen, history will reflect that. History will reflect what I am saying today, and it will reflect what I don't say. Same thing with Congress. Same thing with all these politicians. What you don't do will reflect greater on your history than what you have done. Kristen Sinema, she appointed a veterans group that quit 2 days ago. Why? Because appointing groups and making all these little groups that do nothing eat up money that could be going to the poor. Don't make plans. Don't make promises. I never promised my children anything that I wasn't prepared to deliver. Congress, America has promised and they didn't deliver. And I thank you for your time.
Yeah. Say it's time.
It's time
To deliver.
My name is Kaylin Barker. I'm a wife, mother, and 9th generation West Virginian. My ancestors came to Appalachia to escape abject poverty, and what we got instead was generational poverty. I've spent most of my adult life doing hair and going to college, hoping that one day I could provide better for my son. What I didn't realize is that West Virginia is the land of no opportunity. I have a master's degree and scrounge up couch pennies to put gas in my car. I have to rob Peter to pay Paul every time a bill comes in. I drive on roads that are falling over mountains, drive on bridges with exposed rebar and crumbling concrete. My child can't even get a clean glass of water because it's so contaminated with acid mine drainage and radioactive material that our creeks grow orange. This has been well known and it's been going on for decades, but the time has run out for the people in West Virginia. We the people are literally dying from poverty, and it's time for Congress to act.
That's right.
Come down from your yachts and your ivory towers and listen to the people.
All of them.
Passing the full Build Back Better plan can finally stop the generational poverty that's been forced on Appalachians and people across this country. Stop negotiating the cost and playing kingmaker. Manchin, you need to understand the incredible benefit that this would have for not only Americans, but for mountaineers as well.
That's it. Say, come down and serve the people.
And serve the people. The next voices you will hear is Kristen Olson from West Virginia and Anna Iraza Blackburn from North Carolina.
All right.
Say it, sister. Mountaineers are always
I want you to hear me really clear when I say this. The relief that the child tax credit has provided me as a single mother to make an extra $300 has allowed me to meet my basic needs, my son's basic needs, with less stress. It was such a relief to receive my first $300 payment. I can be a better mother because the energy that I spend worrying about making ends meet, I can focus on my child. I can think about my parenting. And to give me that relief in July, to take it away in December, is wrong. It makes me think about what else I could be doing and thinking and creating if I didn't have to worry about making ends meet. The child tax credit has allowed me to breathe. The child tax credit gives me a little bit, just life a little bit easier with less stress. These past 2 months in particular, my son's father's been between jobs and unable to pay the child support just while he's transitioning. And that child tax credit was the difference between having to ask people for money and being able to live with dignity and make ends meet on my own. I'm Kristen, I'm a mother, and I'm a teacher, and I am the cost of cutting the Build Back Better plan.
Somebody say, and that is. She is. Many are. The real cost. Of cutting. Build Back Better. Thank you. These are media talk to them. Mr. President, Senator Schumer, bring these folks to the Capitol, bring them to the Oval Office, sit down with them, and then let them speak to the nation. And you can win this and change the narrative. But as long as it's just about the treated, nobody gets that. But they get it when it's about real people.
Buenas tardes. Les traigo saludos de Carolina del Norte. I bring you greetings from North Carolina. I stand here because my people will not allow this nation to steal our truth. Follow the facts, and you will see that 1/3 of this nation belongs to Mexico. So our people did not cross the border. This nation did. This is about right and wrong, not about the left or the right. Did you know that 45% of the Fortune 500 companies were founded by immigrant families and their children? And they produce 42% jobs, which generated trillions of dollars into the economy of this nation. But yet this nation refers to us as rapists.
Wow.
And nation, and they will not see a single penny of that. If you incorporate immigrants into the workforce, regardless of skill level, you will increase spending in the economy of this nation. So it would only make economic sense to build back better by giving all 7 million immigrants the right and clear path to citizenship. It is morally, do you hear me? It is morally incorrect to hold and create a pawn in a political game that puts our families' lives at risk and danger.
Wow.
This nation has no business uttering the word democracy because we have yet to give birth to what democracy looks like. When you strip our children from their mother's arms and you cage them like animals, no human society would allow that. No distant civilized human society would allow that. That is immoral. Our community will be damned if this administration thinks we will utterly stand by and watch you separate our families. We will take our anger, convert that energy into a fight for justice. So therefore, we will do more. I want you to say this with me. We will mobilize together. We will organize. We will register. And we will educate. Yo soy, I am, Ana y la raza Blackburn, Afro-Latina, Taino-Caribbean. And me and my 7 million immigrant families are the cost of not building back better. So we say basta. Enough. Hashtag we are home. Hashtag we are home. Gracias.
Somebody say enough. And so we rise. And we will do more.
The next voice you will hear is that of Leon Tyler, Put People First, PA, and that of Esty Lamanaka from Common Defense. Leon, Esty.
We have thousands are looking online, major media that are here. Speak the truth.
That's right.
I am Leon Tyler. I represent not just Put People First, but ACT UP, AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power. I come across a number of lines that makes me vulnerable, that makes people like me vulnerable. People living with medical conditions like HIV, like chronic illness, people who've been incarcerated and recouped themselves. You know what I mean? We got people right now fighting. ACT UP's on another side fighting for SSP. We also have people like National Union for the Homeless, Pennsylvania Union for the Homeless. Because I've been in all that. I cut across all those lines. You know, and if Joe Manchin and Cinnamon can call themselves Christian, how can they turn their eyes, their blind eyes to what's going on today?
That's right.
It's like having Judas in your own party. You know what I mean? 2 Judases. You know what I mean? We got double the problem. You know what I mean? So all I'm saying is, in a series of people that ACT UP, Put People First, Poor People's Campaign, who I'm grateful for. And I just want people to know that I am the cost.
Yes, sir.
I am the cost.
Thank you. Real talk, real people. Say real cause. Real people. Real cause. Real people.
Good morning, everyone. How you guys doing today? My name is Esty LaMonica. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and I am a U.S. Army combat veteran from Muncie, Lenape, and Canarsie Land, more commonly known as Brooklyn, New York. And I am out here today representing Common Defense as the National Membership Manager, Veterans Organization, the largest grassroots progressive organization of veterans across the nation, of over 300,000 supporters. I served in Afghanistan from 2015 to 2016, and I can tell you firsthand, war is expensive. The cost of war is too real. We've lost too many siblings in arms, and many more facing hardships, because our economy is not centered in the people's well-being. It is centered in how much we can produce and how much corporations and politicians can profit off of veterans like me. The forever wars in Iraq and Afghanistan that our veterans organization, Common Defense, played a huge role in ending this year cost us over $6.4 trillion. A full-time minimum wage worker has to work 7 million lifetimes to earn that amount of money. So I have to ask, why is it that a democracy where we can all thrive is deemed to be too expensive, but violence and war is not? We, the people, are tired. We want to be prioritized by the very people that we elected into office. We want an economy that prioritizes our health, our children, our climate. We want an economy that prioritizes us, the people. Is there a price tag on our well-being? We can't afford half a democracy. The Build Back Better plan will not only lead us in the right direction by starting to prioritize us, the people, but it is necessary for people to survive anytime later on in the future. Veterans like me swore an oath to protect and defend this nation. Our oaths did not expire. I'm standing here today representing the members and staff of Common Defense and the thousands of veterans that are impacted throughout the nation by the Veterans Affairs buildings that we need funding for improvements. And I'm demanding, that Congress lives up to their oath as we continue to live up to ours. Thank you.
As I get ready to bring on these clergy members, I want to just let y'all know something. Liz and I are like two refrigerators. We can't keep nothing, especially when it's the truth. Y'all know that Manchin is so scared of us organizing like this that he's told the folk in West Virginia Common Defense he would meet with them if they wouldn't show up at our rallies anymore. Oh, I'm going to tell it all. I'm going to tell it all. So that means that's not only is he a coward when it comes to the filibuster, because I would respect him if he believed in the filibuster like Strom Thurmond, even though I disagree with Strom Thurmond. At least they defended it, right? And they had to stay there. He doesn't even believe in that. But he's going around telling folk that he would meet with them if they won't show up. But guess what, Mr. Manchin, Mr. Sinema? We are together, and ain't nothing you're going to be able to do to separate us. White, black, brown, Asian, Native, young, old, straight, trans, gay, queer, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Baha'i, people not of necessarily religious faith, everybody! Everybody. And it's high time. And we are not going to accept this lie, the lie of scarcity. My sister, she said 6.4, that's just for the war in Iraq. IPS, Institute for Policy, they say if you look at militarization of our community and everything else, 21 trillion since 9/11. So 21 trillion. 3.5 is nothing. And the other side of it, they don't even talk about what's going to come back. The investment is going to grow. And so, y'all, we got work to do. And as these preachers come, I want to ask you, how many of y'all think, regardless of what they do, on June 18, 2022, we ought to put everybody we can in Washington, D.C. for a mass poor people's low-wage workers assembly and moral march on Washington? And how many of y'all think it ought to be a declaration and not a day? We're not coming for a picnic. We're coming to declare that we are not going to be silent anymore, that we have an agenda, and we have 40% of the electorate, and we intend to stir it up. How many of you going to help us mobilize? Help yourselves mobilize. And then as the preachers come on, y'all, Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris is coming. I'm going to call all of y'all, that powerful sister with Kairos co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign. Give it up, somebody. That bad brother, Jim Winkler, the National Council of Churches, who has at his fingertips 60 denominations across this country. That sister I just met that said, I am the chief executive officer of the National Council of Jewish Women. Is Sheila here? And Imam Kodovic with the Islamic Society of North America. Lord knows when we all get together, what a day of justice it's going to be. Now can we holler one time? Just one time. This comes out of Kentucky. Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on?
We on the freedom side.
Which side are you on? Come on.
Which side are you on?
We're on the
people side.
Which side?
On the people.
Say it loud.
Which side are you on?
Put your placards down for a minute. Put them down. Are you on it? Put those hands together. Put them down. Put them down. Everybody put them down. Come on.
People side.
Which side? Come on.
Which side are you on? We're on the people side. Which side are you on? People. Which side are you on? We're on the people side. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? We're on the people side. Which side are you on now?
Which side are you on? Come on, one more time.
Which side are you on now? People. Which side are you on? We're on the people side.
Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on? Let me hear you scream, justice!
Hello, 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 good afternoon. It is powerful to be here with such an amazing fusion movement of people from all over this nation crying out for justice. On behalf of coordinating committees in 47 states, made up of poor and low-income people, moral leaders, activists, and advocates, thousands upon thousands of clergy and faith leaders, and hundreds of partner organizations reaching tens and tens and tens of millions of people of this country. We are here in this nation's capital, showing the interconnections of systemic racism and poverty, ecological devastation, militarism, and this false narrative we keep hearing. This narrative that blames the poor, blames immigrants, blames young people, blames people of color for all of society's problems, tries to pit us against each other, and feeds us the lie that this is as good as it gets. We can't do more, that there's scarcity, when in fact we're living in a world of beautiful abundance. The richest nation in human history can't say we can't afford to do more. we're here this morning to make clear that the people most impacted by the compromises that our politicians seem very comfortable making to health care and paid sick leave, making to this child tax credit and earned income tax credit, making on the back of the earth instead of saving this great planet that God created. And compromises to veterans benefits, early childhood education, and so much more. We won't be silent. We must be heard. We've heard way too much talk in the recent weeks and months and years that demands for human rights, for human dignity, for saving the planet, that this is just politically inconceivable and impossibly expensive. But I come today as a biblical scholar and a preacher. And from Genesis throughout the New Testament is a constant revelation that God's will is that no one, not one human being, should be made hungry or sick or homeless or underpaid or indebted or bereft by the violence of injustice. There's an ongoing indictment, and Capitol, please hear this indictment. It is directed to you. On those who would take and keep the wealth of the world for themselves, causing others, causing the earth to suffer. In our sacred texts are the biblical commands to fill the hungry with good things, to do no wrong to the immigrant, the homeless, the children. Do not shed innocent blood. Our U.S. Constitution commits to establishing justice, promoting the general welfare, providing for the common defense. Our founding documents remind us that when justice is under attack, as it is now, it is our right. It is our duty to make it right. Poor and low-income people, moral leaders, people of conscience from all over the nation are here to tell this nation to make good on these promises. Calling for investments in the people, not on corporations and the greedy. And we are committed to moving forward together. Forward together. Forward together. And not one step back.
Amen. We got an action to do too, y'all.
I'm always grateful to stand here next to Reverend Barber and Reverend Theo Harrison. I thank them for bringing us together. Let's give them a round of thanks. I want to thank them for inviting the National Council of Churches to raise our voice alongside yours. I'm also proud to stand alongside the service employees and Move On and 350 and RAP and IPS and Black Voters Matter and the Sunrise Movement and Common Defense and everyone else who's here today. I speak on behalf of the 30 million people who comprise the 100,000 local congregations of the National Council of Churches, and we're here to call for economic investment for the people, not for corporations and the greedy. Our people have been starved by disinvestment in human needs. Our roads and bridges and infrastructure have been neglected because, in part, we have poured more than $30 trillion into military adventure since World War II. We're living in a militarized state, friends. Militarism and greed and racism are trying to destroy our country. Our government's been running deficits because the rich and the corporations don't pay their fair share. And that's led to distrust in our own ability to work together to provide adequate health care and better education and a clean environment. They've destroyed our confidence in ourselves. You see, corruption pervades the land, and our judges and officials have not rendered just decisions and laws for the people. Too many have accepted bribes and campaign contributions from the rich and corporations, and those bribes have blinded the eyes of the wise and subverted the cause of those who are in the right. Justice, and only justice, you shall pursue so that you may live and occupy the land that God is giving you. Friends, this is in the Bible, and it's as old as the Scriptures. So we're here to insist our right to vote be protected. We're here to say America must build back better. We're here to say the child tax credit must be made permanent. We're here to insist on a living wage. We're here to say our human physical infrastructure must be strengthened. We're here to say the filibuster must go. We're here to say human needs must always prevail over human greed. So we come back here again and again and again because we know the power of persistence and resilience and resistance, and we're here because we will never weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. Amen.
See that right there, Albert Jackson? He wants to know, because he's the executive director, if you're going to help us turn out of this massive poor people's low-wage workers assembly tomorrow march on Washington with those 30 million people.
June 18th.
June 18th, you got it? All right. All right. Councilor Churches.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Sheila Katz, CEO of National Council of Jewish Women, the largest and oldest progressive Jewish women's organization in this country, working on behalf of women, children, and families. As my colleague Rabbi Jonah Pesner shared, on this day 3 years ago, we experienced the deadliest anti-Semitic massacre in American history. My deepest sympathies to Tree of Life, Orla Simcha Congregation, Congregation Dor Hadash, New Light Congregation, and to all those affected as we remember the precious lives that were lost too soon. May the memories of all those lost 3 years ago today be for a blessing. In moments like these, it's so important for our community to come together to fight for a better world. Today, on International Religious Freedom Day, we are joined by people of diverse faiths and backgrounds to raise our voices in community for the America we want to see. On this day, we dare to dream of a country where every person can live with freedom, safety, dignity, equity, and belonging, no matter how we pray, what we look like, or where we come from. We are here voicing our support for this once-in-a-generation opportunity to rebuild our economy, not just to where we were before the pandemic, but toward an economy that is truly inclusive and responsive to the needs of everyone living in our country. COVID-19 laid bare ugly truths about our society, and the pandemic hit women and women of color like no other group during this crisis. They were forced to leave the workforce in droves to care for families. COVID also brought to light the complete lack of support and low pay for care workers. As people of faith, we believe in the dignity of every human being. In Judaism, we call this kavod habriot, and it is so critical that the Talmud teaches that human dignity is so great that it overrides the prohibitions of the Torah, that if forced to choose between our most sacred commandments to the divine and caring for human dignity, we must ensure that people are given the chance to live with the honor they deserve. We believe that everyone deserves to live and thrive, not merely survive. That all human life is precious and sacred. That it is not enough to read in a book that we are all created in the divine image, but that we have to live out every single day in our actions and in our policies. With the understanding that every single person is wholly, irreplaceable, and of infinite value. The human provisions in the Build Back Better agenda are equally as essential to rebuilding our economy as revitalizing the streets we drive on every day. To have a moral America, we must implement national paid family and medical leave. To have a moral America, we must choose to lift millions of kids out of poverty by making the child tax. To have a moral America, we must invest in child care. To have a moral America, we must invest in the people, largely women and women of color, on whom the care economy rests. To have a moral America, we must expand access to health care and address our nation's maternal mortality crisis. We are here to say to Congress that this is a moral imperative. The moral fiber of our nation hangs in the balance, and we need a moral witness in Washington, D.C. to dispel the lies of scarcity and put a face on the real pain and cost to not taking action. We will not stop until we make this new future a reality.
Give it up for our Jewish sisters.
Thank you. Thank you, yes.
Amen.
Preach, brother.
Forward together. Forward together.
Assalamu alaikum, shalom alaikum, pax vobiscum, shante, namaste. The myriad of ways and many other words that we say peace to one another. But there can be no peace without justice. Dear sisters and brothers in the human family, dear children of God and those who have been created in the image of God, let us make no mistake. We are here today for the purpose of love. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, Hubbul Asasi, love is my foundation. And this sentiment has been echoed by the great teachers and prophets and messengers through all human history. We are here about a radical love. But love and a radical love in the public realm is all about justice. A justice that we are speaking about today is racial justice. We are speaking about today economic justice. We are speaking about today political justice. We are speaking about today climate justice. All of these are intertwined. In the words of one of our great predecessors, which Reverend Barber knows more so than many of us here, they are linked together in inextricable mutuality. We cannot solve one without the other. We have to deal with this holistically. Allow me to reflect upon the words of caution and the mission which Reverend Barber started us off on today at this rally and coming together of the people's word and the people's campaign, your people's campaign. We are here today to affirm life. We are here to affirm life, and we are here to call out those who would purvey death. In the surah in the Holy Quran, 5th chapter, Surah Al-Ma'idah, which is translated as table spread, it is a chapter that actually speaks a lot about the Last Supper and the coming down of the table spread on Jesus. And in that chapter, it says, "For this reason we decreed to the children of Israel that whosoever kills a person not in retaliation for murder or for spreading disorder upon the earth, such a person has killed the entirety of humanity. And whosoever saves the life of a person has saved the life of the entire human race. Certainly our messengers have come to them with clear signs that after all, that many of them are there to commit excesses upon the earth." Dear sisters and brothers, we have to affirm a culture of life. How many of those numbers and those statistics, each one represents a sacred child of God, has been killed as a result of the policies and the mishandling of the people's trust by people in the house across the street. How many lives can be saved if they do the right thing and build back better? Yes, we can. Yes, we must. No other option going forward. That is what we are here today to affirm. Kings of peace and life.
Amen. No other option. And that's what we've not put before the people. That's what's not gotten over clear. And that's what our assignment is in this moment of history. And when you talk about dealing with systemic racism and poverty and ecological devastation, denial of health care, underfunding our children, the war economy, and even the false moral narrative, religious nationalism that disables the nation from doing something simple. What's being asked for is simple. First of all, as I said, it's not the whole, all of what's needed. Every senator, every congressperson gets it just by being elected. But, I mean, why wouldn't you want the people that elect you to have the same thing you have? That's a serious question. But the bigger issue is this country has not had a facing of death. We've not been scared to life by facing the death, because the policy deaths are hidden. And they spend so much time taking up all the media that people that you heard, even these clergy, think about the last time you heard the media interview clergy like this. That's why this movement must stay together if we're going to shift the narrative. We've got to turn people's ears into eyes. And we've got to turn their eyes into hearts. And we've got to turn their hearts into policy that changes the heart of this nation. Now, we're going to march over because the folk from Arizona and from West Virginia want to try to deliver a letter to Manchin and Sinema. So we're going to ask those that can walk in a minute to line up. We want you to space out 6 feet. Please do this. Line up, not right now, wait a minute, 3 across, and then 6 feet apart, with our brothers and sisters from Arizona and West Virginia in the front, and Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris with them, and other clergy, and then all of us. And we're going that way. It's a straight walk over to Hartville. Now, I'm not going to take the walk today. My sister did say because of some of the pain, and but you know what? I'm glad to be in a movement where somebody will lend you their legs. And if somebody will lend me their legs, I'll promise you that every time I'm at a mic or in a room, I'll speak the truth. That's all I need to know. Every now and then I can borrow your legs, because all of us have something of a challenge and whatnot. So I want to send us over there with this very simple word, Dr. Jackson and Dr. Hartgrave. Dr. Hartgrave, my dear friend, he's executive director of a bunch of Baptists here in D.C., and he said all of them are going to organize for June 18th. All over the country. Y'all need to understand, this battle for the BBB is just letting us know why we have to do this work. See, it's telling us, what we are watching is affirming why we can't turn back. We can't turn back. Now, real quickly, Rabbi, Imam, and others, there's this strange passage of scripture in Ezekiel 22. Liz lifted Jeremiah 22. It's amazing to me how both of these chapters seem almost similar, because both of them are talking about power unchecked. And what Ezekiel does in Ezekiel 22 is he says that when the moral and religious leaders don't speak right and don't warn people, then the politicians become predators. And part of the reason the politicians are out of order is because the moral voices have not been in their face and in their ears and loved them enough to speak the truth. And so Ezekiel says, your politicians have become like wolves.
All right, Bishop.
Huh? So they've really become like wolves. And then it says that God asked this question, and this is for you, because we can't put all the blame on them. God literally says to Ezekiel, can I find somebody to stand in the gap? We need some gap fillers. And he says you have to have some people like y'all that will literally stand in the gap between the justice and the injustice, and stand there and challenge the greedy, and challenge the power hungry, and challenge those who act more like social and corporate predators than sensitive and compassionate human beings. In fact, the predator, the gap finder, the ones that stand in the gap, God says, if I could just find one to stand in the gap, I can save the nation. Now, the sad thing about the text, and I'm through, is that Ezekiel had to hear God say, I can't find nobody. In the 22nd chapter of Ezekiel, the sad thing was God said, I can't find anybody. And that would be a terrible reality if in this moment in history, with all of this injustice going on, Liz, God couldn't find anybody. But I'm thankful that you are the somebody. And because you are the ones that will stand in the gap, we will ultimately win this battle. It's going to be a fight. You say, Rabbi, but how you know? They got all the money. I know that. They got the Supreme Court. I understand that too. They got the lobbyists. I understand that. But you see, I'm an old country boy. And my grandmama said, read the whole counsel. And so if you stop in chapter 22, you actually will get kind of depressed. God couldn't find anybody. After all the stuff, all the people God has helped, God couldn't find anybody. But if you read 23 and 24 and 25 and 26 and 27, you get over to Ezekiel 37, God says to Ezekiel, I know where I can find a poor people's campaign. I know where I can find some people that'll stand in the gap and change the gaps and become bridges across the gap and stop those who are creating the gap. But you got to go down among the impacted people. You got to go down in the valley of dry bones. You got to go down where the people have been beat down and beat up and it looks like they can't get up. But you need to understand that though they may be in a valley of dry bones, bones still have ears. And if the bones hear a call to come together, if the bones hear a call to assemble, if the bones hear a call to revival, if the bones hear a call to stand up, the bones will get up. My granddaddy said that the foot bone will connect to the ankle bone. But I like to say New York will connect with North Carolina. And Michigan will connect with Mississippi. And Theo Harris will connect with Barbara. And the Theo musicologists will connect with the artists. And the Baptists will connect with the Jews. And the Jewish community will connect with the Muslims. And the Christians will connect with the Baha'i. And the people that may not have faith in religion, but they have faith in the moral arc of the universe, they'll all get together. And they'll become a mighty army. And all I need them to do is stand up. Because if they stand up, I'll pour power on them. I'll pour spirit on them. I'll pour ability on them. Well, I want to see if the Bible is sure enough true. So I want us to come on and hear the word. Let us be the bone. Let us be the gap finder. Let us stand up and see if God won't use us to turn this nation around. Oh, let us rattle a little bit and see if God won't bless us to turn some things around. Is there anybody here that wants the power to do justice, the power to do love, the power to do mercy, the power to change this nation and even change the world? I hear a sound in the valley. I feel a little wind blowing. Feel like feel like it's time to stand up? Stand up! Stand up! Stand up! Stand up! And be counted. We are the ones that we've been looking for. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, you can't stay in the valley no more. It's time to go down to the king's house. It's time to go down to the White House. It's time to go down to the Senate House. It's time to build a model revival. Look at your neighbor and say, I'm going to be COVID safe. But let me touch you and shake you a little bit. And say, it's time to be shaken up. And to shake up this nation. It's time to live and not die. It's time to live and not die. Let justice live. Let mercy live. Let love live. Let faith live. Let grace live. Let it live. Let it breathe. That breathe on me. Breathe on me. For such a time as this. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
And the church say amen. Amen again. All right. So we have been filled with the baptism of fire and the fire of Pentecost here, and we're going to continue in that spirit as we walk 3 by 3 to go and deliver these letters. In the Poor People's Campaign and in the tradition of the nonviolent movement, we always have to give those who are making decisions on our behalf the option to change and the opportunity to change their path and their trajectory. And so we always want to have the opportunity to meet with poor and low-income folks and faith leaders directly with the senators making these decisions. And so folks from Arizona and West Virginia have decided to go deliver these letters that lay out exactly what they're cutting from those states by trying to cut back on this plan and on voting rights. And so everyone else, we want you to support and come along. On this way, there's lots of wonderful actions happening today. After that action, some of us will go over to support the CASA and CDP action, which will be happening over at Capitol and Independence, and just follow our lead. And we do want folks to come back and grab some lunch too, because we've been out here certainly burning some calories with our singing. We are going to ask our theomusicologist to go ahead and move over there, because you're going to lead us with some song. Which side are you on? And others. And then everyone else will just fall in line behind them. We'll go in there, and Reverend Liz will be at the front. And Reverend Liz will help lead too, along with the clergy. And we'll head over there. Only those 6 people will try to go inside. Everyone else will stay outside. We might have to move because we don't, we're not permitted, so we can't stay there and do action. But just follow the lead of the marshals. We'll come back here, break bread, and go for the rest of the day, and end up at 5:30 at the White House. For the young people are breaking their fast for the vigil at 5:30 today at the White House, and some folks, of course, are going to go home. So forward together. Forward together. All right, let's go over. They're in line.
You good?
All right. So you just follow Robin and Liz over there, and everyone else is staying outside. So don't worry. We're just gonna walk over there, sing, and we'll come back. Please take your signs with you and then bring them back.
Colleen is here.
Don't know how long this part will last.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
On the people side.
We're on the people's side.
side are you on? Which side are you on?
We're on the devil's side. Which side are you on now? Oh, which side are you on? We're on the devil's side.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on?
We're on the devil's side. Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on? We're on the justice side. Which
6 folks who are going to attempt to do the letter. If you would go forward around to the end there, and then the rest of us will continue to stand while they try to tip the letter. Is that all right?
Right here.
We're here to see our Senator, Joe Manchin.
And we also have folks from Arizona here to see Senator.
Building's closed to the public.
So we have a letter that we
You can mail it. You can't deliver any mail. Building's closed anyway. Can we get somebody from the Senator's office? You can call them. That's up to you guys. But you can't deliver any mail. Building's closed to the public.
The building is closed to the public.
Guys can't walk in. That's fine.
As long as we're moving, we're all right on this side.
Can't do it I understand that, but yeah, policy is you got to put the post on, let them deliver it.
I'll make a call right now just to make sure we can get clarification if you don't mind. Just so we're on the same page. Are we hearing that constituents cannot enter the Hart building right now?
Building is closed to the public, guys.
But this is our house, huh?
Members' conference only. Building is closed. Not going inside. All right?
Okay, let's just turn around and we can, Eric can tell you who we are so we can just start.
They're not picking up.
You can even narrate what you're doing right now, Matt, to the camera.
Trying to call Manchin's office again.
Will you introduce yourself as well?
I'm Matt Turner. I'm with Poor People's Campaign in West Virginia.
And where do you live in West Virginia?
I live in Buchanan, West Virginia.
And what do you think about what Senator Manchin is doing, and why are you here trying to deliver this letter?
Actually, incredibly disappointed in Senator Manchin. I actually spoke with him in 2018, 2 days after the election, or the primary. He said he wasn't going to run anymore, but obviously that has changed. He is harming his own constituents. He's not listening to us. These bills that we're here to talk about are polling in the high 80% across the political spectrum. Everybody supports the provisions of these bills, and for some reason he's still refusing to pass them. And it's going to do tremendous harm. And we already have the poorest state in the country. And over 40% of people in West Virginia live in poverty. Almost half of our children are food insecure. These bills would help alleviate that. Obviously we've got issues with him and his connection to the coal industry. The first thing he wanted to take out of this legislation was the climate provisions. And it's completely self-serving for him to support that. I mean, it's killing our planet, it's devastating our state. Coal is the third largest industry in West Virginia. Everybody thinks it's first. Second is forest products, first is tourism. But wealth gets concentrated in the coal industry so that a few people end up with all the money, most of them live out of state, and they can buy legislators. I mean, when you have people like Don Blankenship taking a Supreme Court justice on vacation to Monaco as he has lawsuits headed toward the Supreme Court is immoral. It's unconscionable.
Right, that's right. And Kaylin, will you introduce yourself and say what you just heard?
So my name's Kaylin Barker. I'm from Charleston, West Virginia. And I've called Senator Manchin's office 3 times since we've been standing here, and they've now shut their phones off, and it goes straight to voicemail.
All right. Well, it says something about the constituents and what power they have. Jean, will you
Hi,
introduce yourself?
I'm Jean Evansmore, and I am one of the charge chairs of the West Virginia Poor People's Campaign. I fit in all those categories that everybody else has been in. I've been there. I am now a senior citizen. I am here to speak for what should be happening with children, with kids, with grandkids. Definitely that tax money should be coming to parents who are working. In fact, parents who aren't working need money too. Some things just don't make a lot of sense to me. And also, one of the things that I moved back to West Virginia after retiring. I did like lots of people will do. We come back home. I came back and found out how it functioned, how things were functioning were not related to what my expectations were. I am disappointed in Manchin, and I intend to do all I can to make sure he does not get the opportunity to do this to anybody else.
All right.
And I know he plans to run for office. That's why he changed his bills.
So we will make sure that that letter gets delivered. We have some sisters here from Arizona who can introduce themselves, say why they're here. We will then commit ourselves to making sure that these letters are delivered and our voices are heard.
I am Pauline Wessel McCoy, and I've been trying to call my senator, Kristen Sinema, and I keep getting not just voicemail, but a full voicemail box. And so not only can I not get into the building, but I can't leave a message or talk to anybody and say that I'm here. I'm here with Joan. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Joan Steed from Arizona. We're here to deliver a letter just asking for some basics, like do your job and try to listen to the people. And we're being turned away, but we're not being stopped. We're just being turned away for now. And we'll keep trying. We're trying to do what's right for the American people. And we will continue.
Our office is open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily, and you can leave a message here. And then it's about to tell me that the voicemail is...
This is very disappointing. We came here in good faith, and we are still going to keep trying.
That's right. And as we're here from the song behind us, Ain't Gonna Let No System Walk All Over Us, we are committed in the Poor People's Campaign from Arizona to West Virginia to making our voices heard. People have been hurting our people for far too long. We won't be silent anymore, and we are committed to getting these letters, but then mostly getting the stories and the solutions coming out of our communities into the voices, into the ears of our elected officials, telling them to serve the people, invest in the people, and not the interests of the greedy and corporations. So it's been powerful to be here with folks from Arizona and West Virginia, from all over the country, as a part of this Witness Wednesday. We thank everyone that's part of the Poor People's Campaign and signing in to this. Please keep those calls up. If we weren't powerful, they wouldn't be shutting the phone lines down and making the voicemail full. That's a sign not of weakness, but of strength, and we will keep organizing and keep mobilizing, keep registering, and keep engaging people until we can lift this load of poverty and racism and build back better and even more. So here we are.
Reverend Liz, what's next since they won't accept the letter? Are we going to mail it? What are we going to do?
We're going to mail these letters and make sure that we're also going to email them. We're going to certify mail them and make sure that they.
We'll be back.
We'll be back.
What does it say to y'all that they wouldn't even let you in to deliver a letter when you're their constituent?
I said it's closed to the public.
But what does that tell you? Yeah.
It tells me that they have predetermined outcomes for this legislation that they really don't care.
They don't want to hear it.
Us being here should give Joe Manchin a way out of the corner he's painted himself into. All he has to do is say, I heard my people talking, and I did what they wanted.
Amen.
So if he runs again, I mean, if you're a politician, how could that not be the right thing to do? And he's not doing it. There's self-interest, there's other hidden interests. Something has to be happening for him to ignore the will of 80-some% of the people of West Virginia to do what he thinks is best. It's arrogance for him to say, no, there's 98 other senators that all believe in this, but I'm smarter than them, I know more than them.
And what does it say about the
And if any of the media wants to come back to us,
we're going to report back to the crowd.
Thanks so much.
You're not old enough to have been stationed in Korea in the 80s, are you? I was stationed with a Mike Club.
So what's your name, sir?
My name's Matt Turner, M-A-T-T-K-E-R-N-U.
Side are you on? Which side are you on? which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? I said freedom. I said freedom. I said freedom. I said freedom. Somebody yell out freedom. 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 Justice. 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 Somebody say freedom. Somebody say freedom. Lift your hands and say freedom. Oh, Lord. I came here today for freedom. Woo! We're going to walk back.